Well, hey everybody. It's the 30th day of January 2025. I'm Jan Erickson, and this is As Above, So Below. Well, that was an interesting and tragic thing that happened last night over in DC with the aircraft and the helicopter. So I guess, prayers out to the families and to all who knew them. I read that there was some U.S. skaters. There was some championship there held in Wichita, Kansas, and they were coming back on that plane, on that commuter plane. So we'll see what happens over the next months, because it does take a while to find out what happened, for them to investigate and everything. But in the meantime, we're going to begin today with Alys. Alys is the 15th rune of the Elder Futhark. It's the elk, or it represents the elk. You can kind of see like the antlers there, or the elk sedge where they hide and where they're feeding. It's the big tall grasses in the marsh areas. But what it is, it's really about drawing higher consciousness into your physical reality, into your physical mind, if you will. And it reminds me of when you raise your arms in supplication, when you're drawing down the moon, or raising your arms in supplication to the goddess. But like when you go out on a full moon and you raise your arms up, it really kind of reminds me of that. And what you're doing is you're drawing goddess presence into your life, or higher self into your life, or higher awareness, versus continually reacting from the ego standpoint, which is literally the theme of these readings, the as above so below readings. How it is above is how it should be below. But as we all know, that's a challenge for humans to embrace that truth about themselves and then manifest that in their daily lives. It's more of a tendency to be reactive. And I think what Alys is saying, especially, right now when a tragedy happens that's so bad, that you remember, who you are and who we are to one another. That instead of seeing the other, that we see the other side of self, and the unity that we share in spirit, in the Creator. So, and of course, then we get here, and people try to decide, well, it's the us versus them, when no, it's really not. It is if we make it that, though, and we're dealing with a lot of that right now. Let's take a look at the geomancy side of things, the below side. I'm going to put these in the order of fire, air, water, and earth, and see what we come up with. Well, we have Caput Draconis, which is, we had Kata last Thursday. Kata would be the south node of the moon. Caput would be the north node. And so you're talking about being on the threshold of new things, new ideas, new experiences, new awareness. So this would be the head of the dragon, of the north node, versus the tail of the dragon, which is the south node, in Kata Draconis, which is the end of something, or the harbinger of disaster or karma, or it doesn't have to be negative, past lives influencing with Kata. But with Caput, it's about what you're on the threshold of new beginnings, the entrance, the upper kingdom, if you will, versus the lower kingdom. And again, that aligns, I think, if you think of it in terms of the upper kingdom, it aligns really well with Alys, where, again, you're drawing down that upper kingdom, that soul awareness, into your physical manifestation here. But let's see what all that has to do with the cards. And as you know, sometimes I end up having to shift a little bit if the cards are suddenly saying something, a little more obscure, maybe, or something that's sort of saying, well, it could be that, but there's these little things going on, and that might just detract us or distract us from what the higher self wants to say about it. You get into that reactive mode, and And it's hard to remember that you're here to observe and engage, from that higher awareness or the higher mind, in terms of what you're projecting and what you're seeing and experiencing and what you're part of. Because you're not just here for your own purpose here. You're here to assist other souls that are in their own expression, And maybe you're in a soul group even where you're essentially playing a part in each other's so-called lives or existences throughout. So it's the same souls that are helping you and you're helping them. It's just a group that works together in this regard here, or in other layerings of experience, if you will, or lifetimes or timelines. People call it all kinds of things now. We have a run on swords here today, which is the air element or the intellect, and we also have one card from Major Arcana, the Hermit. I'm going to start with the Hermit, primarily because he's going to align well with the idea of drawing down higher wisdom, even if you have to retreat to another place to do so. Here he goes above it all, up onto a snowy mountaintop here. And he's holding his lantern. It's lighted with a Merkaba, which is the soul vehicle. So already you're getting the idea that he's drawing in his higher awareness, his higher mind, the higher soul or the oversoul into his awareness, so he can now look down upon creation and see it with a different perspective. And the way you can interpret that in terms of your own life is you need to get above it all to get a better perspective on something. And put an end to the perceptions that are no longer serving you. 9 is about endings and completion. It's also about spirituality and generosity and enlightenment. And so he's there, he's holding his staff in this left hand, and he's lighting his existence and his awareness with the Merkaba, or the soul vehicle, that his soul uses to travel around and either into incarnations or in the dream state when we're all outside the body and going here and there. But if you're going to get away from it all and you're going to get a new perspective on things, then you need to put your mind to rest a little bit here. Let your thoughts settle. With the 4 of Swords, here you have a coffin, a coffin that's made of stone or concrete or whatever they used back then. You see one sword here horizontal, which is at rest, it's at balance. Here you have the relief on top of who's inside, and you see the stained glass window over here. There you see, it looks like you see possibly a mother and a child who's looking down, or it could be religious figures looking down and staying with the individual inside the coffin. So basically this is inside a mausoleum, but it's the idea that you put your mind to rest. Again, with swords, that's the air element, that's the intellect, it's communication, it's justice, it's, again, intellect, it's deception versus truth. It's reason, balance, rationality, if you will. And with 4, it's your foundation and your structure. So you want to put your mind at rest and reevaluate what that is. And again, if the Hermit is suggesting you need to get away from it all to figure out what your perceptions should be and how they can be influenced by higher self or by spirit, then really the 4 of Swords is the perfect way to do that, where you essentially let everything come to the stillness. If you need to use meditation to do that, or maybe you take a walk in nature or just a walk period, and it kind of gives your mind a chance to just sort of settle and be focused on the walk and focused on whatever it is that letting go as you're walking, letting go of the burdens of perceptions. Essentially, you can do that. So it can be kind of a moving meditation or a walking meditation, if you will. But the focus is on physical reality, because you see the other 3 swords here pointed downward. So it's focused on physical reality. And again, we need to gain a different perspective of what that should look like, and letting go and maybe reestablishing the foundation from a higher perspective your values and your principles from a higher perspective versus the reactive ego's perspective. And then from there, after you do that, then you have the Ace of Swords, which is the genesis of new thought and new ideas and new beliefs and new balance, if you will. Here you see again you see it piercing the crown, which is essentially drawing in. The crown represents spirit, and so it's drawing in that higher awareness. You have the olive branch and the palm frond here on the side. There's your olive branch. There's your palm frond. And it's a very forceful act of when you allow the soul to say, here we go. This is the new perspective that you're going to gain. And you gain that by stepping back and getting away from it all and reevaluating it from the soul perspective. So it just may be that right now, for you to begin anew, essentially, and be on the threshold of something new, you've got to let go of stuff that's not working anymore, that doesn't reflect reality, that doesn't reflect truth. Maybe you've been caught up in something that may seem right at the time, but then as things progress and you see the cause and effect of different things about it, you look back and you say, I don't really think that's where I need to be. I need to be in a different place, mentally and intellectually. And so bringing your mind to a rest, either through meditation or just sitting quietly, or doing a walking meditation, where you're visualizing your all of the things that no longer serve you, all the beliefs, the perceptions, the ideas, all of that really aren't in alignment with spirit. You just observe them falling away as you're walking, and allowing your mind then to then be imbued with spirit so that it can have the genesis of new ideas and the new beliefs that you need to have. Again, coming from spirit instead of from what you see around you and reacting with judgment and negativity and embracing the falsity of us versus them. The idea that there are actually people there that want to control the narrative for people and to create that illusion of separation so that they are the ones that stay in control of everything. That's how this world has always been. And that's no different today. They've just created the illusion that there needs to be enemies on one side and the other, when the true enemy is the individuals who want to control everything and control the thought processes and perceptions of other people, so that you see someone else as the other and the enemy and as somebody to fear, instead of embracing the other side of self that you're truly seeing and that you can learn from and associate with and be connected to, because you are anyway. No matter what you think, you are anyway. And so it'd be like saying, it'd be like one hand being mad at the other. It's like, no, you need them both. So you got to figure a way to work together, right? I mean, that seems really simplistic and silly, but realistically, it's not. It could be anything. You decide your neighbor's a bad person, so you don't talk to them, when maybe they have issues, maybe, but that you disagree with, but there's no reason you can't talk to them. Is there may be coming a time here where you need to work together, right? To make sure everybody's okay. What if something like that happens? Some tragedy happened, I went through one when I was a kid. I was up in Alaska, and I was there. We lived there from 62 to 68, and the 64 earthquake, it was 9.2. I mean, that was massive. Our families didn't know for 3 weeks. We were cut off. They had no idea if we were alive or dead. And everybody had to rely on everybody else because nobody had any power. You had, I mean, you were basically camping in your home. And and this went on, and you had to rely on people around you, complete strangers, for help, and you had to be there for them. And so watching a community come together like that, all over the state, and there wasn't that many people living in Alaska at that time. And so the town I lived in, we lived in Wasilla, and there were 100 people there. I mean, there's a whole lot more now, but there was only 100 people at that time, and we're all spread out. And so we had to work together in order to survive all of this, right? And so it's the same idea now. And so reflecting on, and if somebody at that time didn't have that mindset, well, they had to get with it right away and have it, and change how they saw things and how they saw people so that everybody survived this thing, because it was serious. I mean, 9.2 is huge, right? Well, so you have to get in your meditative moment and decide what's working for you and what isn't, and what do you need to have happen now. And maybe there's something going on in your life today where, in order that you can begin anew, you've got to let go of some of this stuff that sees people as the other, that sees people as the enemy, and find a way to come together and in common shared purpose, which reflects the nature of the soul to begin with. So if we want the idea of as above, so below, that's where it begins. And so I think today's, maybe this is just happening because of what happened with the tragedy over the Potomac last night with the helicopter and commuter flight. It reminds us that this is a time to think about one another in a very positive way and loving way, and see what we can do to be supportive, instead of some of the stuff that you see that people in power are saying now that are just so divisive and belittling and destructive to the whole, gravity of the moment. Instead of coming together, it's just finding ways to nitpick and be mean and judgmental without any facts. Because of course, we don't need facts anymore. So maybe the reading is about that, to change your perspective on things like this and say, wait a minute, this is not the time to speculate or to be mean about things in the comments that we make, but in fact, step back and gain the right perspective you need to have, gain from the truth. And that's going to take some time. So if this is about that, if this is reflecting that, then it's just maybe a message today. But if this is about something you're dealing with, then it may be something where you don't have all the facts. Maybe the perceptions you have are not working. You may see things in a way that just isn't right or real. And so in order for things to begin anew and being on that threshold of new beginnings, it's time to shift some of that and to get higher and see things from the higher mind's perspective, from the soul's perspective, though in a way that's loving and supportive and collaborative, and seeing us as, and instead of seeing the other, see the other side of self and embrace that. See a brother and a sister and a mother and a father and a family. See family instead of seeing somebody that you think is somehow the devil or whatever. They're just you in another form. They're just another version of you. Because if we're all one in the Creator, then we're all one here. So there's only one, right? Not this disparate amount of souls we see all over the planet. There's really just one, and they're just pieces of that one. And we forget that. And so if something is on the horizon for you today and you'd like to pursue it, but you feel maybe a little less congruent than you need to be with it, it could just be that you need to go within and really reevaluate how you see things and drop resistance to love and to community. So anyhow, I think that's it for Thursday. Thank you so much for watching. Do check out the blog over at Stepping Aside. The web address there is imsteppingaside.com. If you forget, click on more below the video, the word more, and it'll open up a box and it'll be right up there at the top. And check out the blog, and there's a forecast that goes out on Sunday mornings at midnight every week, and also the spellcasting correspondences for the week if you're of that persuasion. And they're helpful to kind of line things up and make things more coherent for you. If you want to do it that way, but if you don't, that's fine too. But check out the blog anyway, and have a good weekend. And Stay warm. We're supposed to be, I think this weekend we might get snow here on the high desert. We've got snow forecasted for the following week. So we got our shopping done this week early, and for the next couple weeks, because we don't know. We've got to go get gas for the snowblower here in a little while, and make sure we've got that all ready to go. So we've got an 800-foot driveway that has to get plowed out. We use that to do it. And have a good weekend, and come back again on Monday for another edition of As Above, So Below. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.